Tick-tock. Breathe. Rise. Begin again. He smiled quietly to himself. It wasn't the sharp, triumphant smile of victory, but the soft, gentle curve of peace and expression of someone who has finally found what they were always meant to hear. He stood up slowly, stretching his arms towards the sky, his joints whispering faintly like old, well-loved wood. The air was fresh, scented with wet stone and the fragrant morning herbs from the garden. Somewhere nearby, a single robin began to sing its clear, hopeful song. He walked back toward the Abbey doors. They stood slightly ajar, the heavy iron hinges creaking like the voice of a dear friend just waking from a long slumber. The familiar smell of old wax and parchment drifted out to greet him, a comforting embrace. He stepped inside, his simple sandals whispering against the cool stone floor. The candle he had left burning on his workbench had melted down into a soft, warm pool of gold around the wick. Its smoke coiled lazily upward, dancing and fading into the heavy wooden beams above. And beside it, the clock still moved, its heart still beat. He sat down before it, folding his hands peacefully in his lap. For a long, long time, he simply watched the mechanism. Each cog turned with a quiet purpose, each tooth catching the next in a display of perfect, unending patience. There was something truly holy in its movement, a kind of quiet devotion, a mechanical prayer offered up to the silence. He remembered an old teaching, one passed from master to apprentice many generations ago. A true clock does not count time. It teaches stillness. And now, after so many years of struggle, he finally, deeply understood. He reached for his quill and opened the thick, leather-bound book beside him, his journal, where he had recorded every trial, every frustrating failure, and every flicker of hope. The pages smelled faintly of ink and dust, the scent of a life's work. He dipped the quill into the pot, and in neat, deliberate strokes, he wrote, "This day, time has awakened in St. Alaric's Abbey, not to measure us, but to remind us that even silence breathes." He let the ink dry for a moment, then closed the book, gently. The sound of parchment meeting parchment was as soft as the flutter of a moth's S-wings in the twilight. Through the open arched window, the sounds of the world began to grow. A cow lowed in a distant pasture. The brook sang faintly as it wound its way past the monastery gardens. Even the distant, gentle murmur of the village bells seemed to answer the clock's ticking in a perfect, unplanned harmony. Brother Alden rose once more. He knew his work was not finished, not truly, but he no longer felt hurried or anxious to complete it. For the first time in a very long time, he felt that the Abbey itself was helping him, that the ancient stones remembered their purpose, and that the wind carried his prayers farther than they had ever gone before. He began to polish the brass casing of the clock, his movements slow and circular, almost meditative. Each pass of the soft cloth left a brighter gleam until the surface shone like captured sunlight. In its reflection, he could see a faint, ghostly image of himself, smiling softly back. The sound of the ticking filled the room, a steady lullaby of precision and patience. If you were there, standing beside him in that quiet workshop, you would feel it toothy, the way it seemed to steady your own heart, to draw each breath into a calm, peaceful rhythm with its own. The Abbey bells had not rung in decades, but Brother Alden knew, deep within his soul, that the time would soon come. This clock was more than just a device to mark the hours. It was a messenger, and when its hands reached the appointed hour, it would awaken the old bronze bells, slumbering high in the tower above. He thought of those bells often, their immense weight suspended in the shadows, their surfaces green with the passage of age. They had been forged in the 13th century, a time when the Abbey still sang with voices and was filled with light. Each one was named Faith, Hope, and Silence. And beneath them, carved into the stone in beautiful, formal Latin, were the words, *Tempus, Deo servet, Time serves God. He whispered the words now, his own breath stirring the candle's flame. Tempus Deo servici. And in that very moment, a tiny, almost imperceptible breeze passed through the window, just enough to brush against the pendulum. The clock answered. Its rhythm deepened, growing stronger, more certain, more resonant. A quiet tremor ran through the air, a sound exactly, but a feeling like the low, deep hum of the earth just before a great bell tolls. Brother Alden stood perfectly still. He looked up, his eyes lifting toward the high, vaulted ceiling. He could almost sense the tower above him, its ancient stones vibrating faintly, its slumbering bells listening, waiting. He whispered one final, simple prayer. Let this hour be peace. And then it happened. A single, low tone rolled down through the walls, deep and impossibly warm, like thunder made of gold. The bell of faith had awakened. Its sound filled every hall, wrapped itself around every archway, and trembled through every empty, silent cell. Brother Alden closed his eyes. The tears came quietly, not tears of sorrow, but of profound, overwhelming relief. The Abbey was no longer silent. Time, once held still, now moved with purpose again. Outside, the birds rose into the air in a flurry, circling the ancient tower, their wings catching the brilliant light of the dawn. The villagers in the valley below looked up, startled and wondering. Who could have rung the old bell's bells? They all thought long dead and silent. Some crossed themselves in reverence. Others simply listened and felt a quiet, inexplicable peace settle over them, a peace they could not name. Inside, Brother Alden smiled faintly. He whispered to the quiet room, to the clock, to himself. It is enough. The clock continued to tick, faithfully, gently, unhurried. And the Abbey, its stones, its gardens, its very air breathed once more. The day began again, as all days do, but it felt softer this time, kinder. A day measured not by hours, but by heartbeats. Tick-tock, peace remains. Thank you so much for joining me on this peaceful journey. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more moments of calm and reflection. Until next time, be well. The sound of the bell faded slowly, rolling away across the valley like a long sigh. It mingled with the morning breeze and the distant whisper of the river below. For a while, the world seemed to listen as if every tree, every stone, every hidden creature had stopped to feel the echo linger. Brother Alden sat perfectly still at his bench, the quill resting near his folded hands. The golden light through the high window fell across the clock's brass face, and its gentle pendulum swayed, left and right, its rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. He felt a profound sense of calm, as though he had stepped outside of time itself. There was no more urgency, no more need for repair, no more worry about things left unfinished. The clock was alive, and yet it asked nothing of him. It simply was. In that moment, he realized the purpose of his long years of work had not been to master time, but to make peace with it. He closed his eyes, feeling the faint warmth of sunlight touch his cheeks. He could smell the comforting scents of beeswax and brass. He heard the hush of wings a small bird had flown in through the open window, settling on the edge of his bench. It chirped once, softly, then tilted its head at the sound of the ticking. Brother Alden smiled. He whispered to it, his voice little more than breath. Even you hear it, little one. The bird blinked, then hopped closer, pecking curiously at the edge of his journal. Alden let it stay, in its bright, curious eyes. He saw a glimmer of wonder, the same wonder that had filled his own heart on the first day he dreamed of making a clock. Far above, in the bell tower, the great bronze bells swayed in their wooden cradles, their metal still humming faintly from the morning's chime. Dust drifted through beams of light that pierced the louvered windows. Cobwebs shimmered in the golden shafts, and the air smelled of old oak and iron. The bell named Faith slept again, but its echo remained. And then, somewhere deep in the Abbey's oldest passage, a sound answered, a soft mechanical murmur, as though another clock had just awoken. Brother Alden looked up, his brow furrowed, not in fear, but in quiet curiosity. He rose, the wooden chair creaking beneath him. He took a candle from the shelf, lit it from the one that still burned on his bench, and began to walk down the corridor. The stone floor was cool under his feet. The walls were lined with faded frescoes, images of saints, stars, and winding vines.